Hi, guys. Thanks for joining with me today. I hope you had a safe and fun 4th of July yesterday. Um, but as I'm sure you might be aware, that 4th of July is always bogged down with a lot of accidents. So I thought it appropriate today to talk about accidental death and dismemberment policies for insurance. Now, this is one of the types of insurances that can be a little bit confusing, and there are plenty of different companies out there that offer these services with different varieties within them and what they may or may not cover and what they may or may not include in there as well. So I just wanted to kind of touch on the subject a little bit and kind of a general atmosphere of things, just so that we can kind of get a better understanding of it. And like always, if you have any specific questions, feel free to leave them in the comments, or there is a link that I'll include on there if you want to talk about insurance and you have questions about that. You can meet with me, and I'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have in the insurance industry. So just to kind of go over this briefly, I did put a little slide together, but it's the accidental death and dismemberment policy here. And um, and the first question is it life insurance? And yes and no on this. It is life insurance in the grand scheme of things, as that it has a death payout. So if you were to pass away accidentally, then yes, it is a life insurance policy. But if you were to get hurt accidentally and you have a loss of any limbs, or any kind of bodily loss, then it can also have a living payout as well. So a lot of times this is one that you would have a beneficiary for, but you may actually be the person filing the claim for it and getting the benefit yourself instead of it going to the beneficiary. So it's kind of both. It's a yes and no on that one. Is it a life insurance? It's a I can put it this way: it's a life insurance and a living insurance. And then what does it cover? So this one is kind of a tricky question because all of these that are dealing with what we call AD&D insurance is a lot. There's a lot of different things that you can do with this. So what does it cover? You really have to ask your agent. What is this? What does your company cover as far as accidental death and dismemberment? What is included in there? How does it go? And we'll kind of go over the general way and the way that most companies do it here. But you might want to just double check with your insurance company, just your insurance agent, and just say, hey, I'm interested in accidental death and dismemberment policies. How do they work? How do you guys work those out, and what do they cover? Now, traditionally speaking, if an accident was fatal or it resulted in the losing of your eyesight, speech, or limbs, it would pay out a specified amount. And that payout may not be the full payout amount. I'll kind of go into that in just a second. But the key thing here is that it has to be from an accident. So, and then a lot of the different companies will put in there different. There's one level for if it's any kind of an accident, you fall out of a tree, something like that. Then there's it'll pay out a different amount, maybe a higher amount if it's a car accident, automobile accident. And there's usually something that says common carrier, and that's usually a higher payout. And all a common carrier is something that you pay a fee for, a fare for. So bus, if you're in a bus and it got into a car wreck and you passed away from that, plane, trains, taxis. Now even a lot of companies are including like Lyft and Uber into those as well. So anything that you really pay a fare for, that's kind of a common carrier. Now, usually the dismemberment coverage works on a per member basis. So this is kind of where it gets a little hinky. If you lose both of your arms, then usually the payout will be 100%. But if you lose one arm or one leg or something like that, eyesight and only one of your eyes, something like that, the payout is usually 50% of what the full amount is going to be. And then also some of them have usually what's called like an income protection or something like that. And it's if you have to go to the hospital due to an accident, it'll pay you out a certain amount. Usually depending on there's very different ones, but usually it depends on how long you're in the hospital. If you're spending the night at the hospital, if you're just in the ER or something like that. So there's a couple of different ones on that aspect, but But all in all, I really like this insurance for people that are in their 20s, 30s, 40s, because statistically speaking, when somebody passes away in those age groups, it's usually going to be from an accident. It's not usually going to be health related. Now, keep in mind with AD&D insurance, accidental death and dismemberment insurance, that key word in there is accident, accidental death or dismemberment insurance. So it has to be from an accident. So if you pass away from natural causes, sickness, something like that, then it usually doesn't cover that. Also, it won't cover, obviously any insurance won't cover you if the accident is while you're committing a crime or something like that. Drug overdoses, stuff like that won't be considered accidental. They usually don't cover those. Excuse me. But so it has to be an accident, and it has to be while you're not doing anything wrong. So let's say you're trying to, break into the police station to, get your buddy out of jail, and you fall off the roof and you break both your legs. Your accidental insurance is not going to cover you more than likely because it's in the process you committed a crime, albeit a very dumb crime, trying to break into the jail. But in any case, it's still you trying to commit a crime, so they won't cover that. Now, I get a lot of people that ask this question: should I get it? And the answer that I always give them is this answer that I wrote down: yes, but maybe no, but also maybe yes. And the reason for that is because it's a very unique type of insurance that I think that most people should have this insurance. Especially if you have, risky hobbies, if you like to go dirt bike riding, if you like to go quad riding, horseback riding, stuff that you might get hurt doing. If you like to go rock climbing, if you like to do a lot of hiking, if especially like backpacking, or staying overnight at places, or you're in really rough terrain, or stuff like that you have a riskier life, or if you're doing trips a lot that you might get hurt doing, then I say definitely get this. But in the grand scheme of things, we never know how we're going to pass away. We never know. When I remember growing up, my mom always telling me, when I didn't want to do something, or if I was scared to do something, or if I was afraid to go somewhere, it was always, well, you never know what's going to happen. You never know what's going to happen. You could be sitting in your living room and a car can come through your living room wall. You never know what's going to happen. So with that being said, I think that everybody should at least consider AD&D insurance. It's usually, there's a couple of pros to it. For one, it's usually a lot cheaper than whole life and even some term lives, because the aspect that it only covers for the accidental. So I think that it's at least worth looking into for everybody. And I think especially people in their 20s, 30s, and 40s should get some kind of coverage in accidental death and dismemberment, just because statistically speaking, if you're going to pass away in those age groups, that's how you're going to do it more than likely, is from an accident, car accident, stuff like that. So if you have a job where you drive a lot, if you have, if your job's a little bit riskier, if you're required to drive around for work, hey, this is something that you should probably look into. If you're, a little bit more active and you're doing stuff outside a lot, I would definitely look into it. So should I get it? I mean, that's ultimately your decision. I'd be happy to sit down and kind of go over your individual situation and see if it's something that would work out for you. You can always click that link, but I do suggest talking to some kind of an insurance agent that can go over this, see what they offer in this aspect of things, and to look more into it. This is something that could be, if you have, usually this insurance is fairly cheap. You're looking at, maybe $60, $100 a year, kind of depending on what kind of coverage you're getting and the amount and how much you want to get. But let's say you have 200,000, in accidental death and dismemberment insurance, and something happens and you're in a car accident, you pass away. That's $200,000 to your family to help them out, help them take care of your last arrangements, and to make sure that your kids are secure, your family's secure, and going to be able to live on without you for a little bit. For you're looking at, like $60 a month. That's, $60 a year, excuse me. that can be life-changing for somebody. So I always think that we should definitely look into different options that we can get. And this is one that I think that everybody should look into. Now, obviously, if you're a little bit older, that is probably not, not might not be the right thing for you, but it might be. So, like I said, everybody's situation is unique and different. So you really have to kind of gauge your own specific situation to see if this is if this is a right type of insurance with you. And usually, when I see people purchasing AD&D insurance, it's usually with some other kind of insurance, usually like a whole life. So they'll get a specified number in whole life insurance that will pay out no matter how they pass away. And then they'll get an accidental death and dismemberment policy as well, usually like a rider to go along with that policy to get those discounts, make it a little bit cheaper. And then and they have the two together. That way, if they pass away from anything at all, disease, whatever, that whole life will kick in and take care of them. And if they pass away from an accident, they both pay out. So you'll get the whole life, your beneficiary will get the whole life, and that accidental death and dismemberment policy as well, combined together to give to them as a beneficiary. Or if you have both and you get hurt and you can't continue working or something like that, that accidental death and dismemberment will pay out to you. And then you can choose to do with that what you want. What I usually suggest to people is go ahead and get some kind of like a reduced paid up or some kind of a whole life, so you make sure that you have something to leave to your family later on. But that's a discussion for another day. I hope I answered some of your questions today. And like I said, if you would like to ask specific questions, you can leave those in the comment section, or you can schedule a time and I'd be happy to sit down with you and see if see exactly what your specific situation needs and any way that we can help. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button. Have a great day, everybody.